Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. How y'all doing? It's Kaiser. And 2023 was a banner year for failures. And believe me, it was quite a dumpster fire to watch. But yeah, as if things couldn't have gotten any more odd in 2023, the year that Rachel Zegler had her complete and total meltdown all over social media, losing pretty much just losing any and all credibility that she could ever have as an actress going forward, and immediately going out there and talking smack about one of the greatest animated, if not one of the greatest films of all time. So yeah, that didn't particularly go over well, and especially in a year when Disney was really having a very, very bad year. This movie was supposed to be due out in 2024 in March. Actually, I think it was supposed to originally come out last year. They moved it to 2024 in March, and then not long after that, they recently moved it to March of 2025. So rumors have immediately been circling around since that came out and asking, okay, well, what were they doing? What's the reason? Well, apparently there were a bunch of reshoots that needed to happen, which immediately led to a lot of rumors going around, including the rumor that Rachel Zegler had been cut from Snow White. This actually came from a surprising source, which is Inside the Magic, which is usually a very liberal leaning entertainment rag that's kind of out there. And they immediately put out this headline saying Disney cuts Snow White, issues official statement on Rachel Zegler. But if you scroll down to the actual bottom of the page here, you go to this paragraph, it literally says this image confirms that Disney is moving forward with Rachel Zegler starring Snow White. And yeah, officially says that in fact that she will be the princess and that there will be no casting changes, which always seemed unlikely. And of course, put the now well-known picture of her with the caricature CG dwarves that were not in the original promotional material we saw. Apparently, the 7 diversity hires were magical creatures. She had that whole spiel about how the prince was not actually a prince, but just some dude, and he could totally end up getting cut from the movie. Just being an absolute snot-nosed brat. Well, of course, that was a bit of an odd thing, but then there also started to be rumors of will they recast Snow White because of her controversy. And well, strangely enough, there was actually at one point apparently some talk of recasting Rachel Zegler with Jenna Ortega, which, given we've already had some controversy on Zegler's casting for reasons, it kind of seems that odd that they would attempt to go that route. But to be completely honest with you, we really never put a whole lot of stock in it. And then that was only about 2 weeks ago when this report came out. But apparently the other information had come out before that about, possibly Jenna Ortega coming in. I never put much stock in it, which was why I didn't report on it at the time. And, well, that seems to have panned out because, well, of course, we saw earlier, they were officially saying that they're not cutting Zegler. But here's what's really interesting, because then here on January 23rd, a rumor started going around saying that Disney was moving to trim Rachel Zegler's Snow White screen time with a new childhood subplot, which all of this rumored information seems to stem from this article here at That Park Place, which by WDW Pro has some actually good information. And this guy knows his stuff. He's got a lot of good inside sources. Let's actually read what they've got to say here. This is saying, exclusive, Rachel Zegler rumored to have reduced role in upcoming Disney Snow White live-action remake. say the Hollywood starlet has not done much to endear herself to the industry with coworkers or fans. Now the Walt Disney Company may be cutting back on RZ from her leading Snow White role. The following article is based on information received by a source we believe to be reliable, but whose identity is protected due to our inability to verify parts of the information we receive. The article is distinctly rumor and speculation. So that is a very important thing to note there. This information is rumor and speculation. It's not anything that we can actually prove, but allegedly this information is coming from a reliable source inside Disney that is in contact with the people who wrote this article. Given WDW's work, I'm inclined to give them the benefit of the doubt. So moving on down here, after I just wanted to make sure I made that little bit of a distinction. So Rachel Zegler, a woman who has yet to experience a true bona fide box office success, and no Hunger Games hitting half of its potential at the and no Hunger Games hitting its potential from half a decade ago, or actually a decade ago, doesn't count. Yeah, perhaps that's why Disney just might be feeling very unsure about going forward with Zegler as Snow White, and that's even despite having cast her in the role and already having filmed the movie once. Now, with a year's worth of delays, it's back to the drawing board. According to a source we believe to have accurate information, Disney has been looking for a way to soften the image of Snow White as played by Rachel Zegler in the movie. According to this source, the amount of reshoots they need for Zegler is prohibitively intense, and it also doesn't make much sense to try having her play the role in a more heartwarming, traditional manner if she's also playing it quite differently in the original footage. As an example, the source says that the chances of Rachel Zegler convincingly singing "Someday My Prince Will Come" after her interviews to be about zero as zero can be. Yeah, the infamous, interviews where she was talking about her co-stars. Weird, all that. Yeah. So I was told that Disney has come up with a plan C or D or who knows. Anyway, it's a plan that you wouldn't go with unless you were really, really stuck, which sounds pretty accurate given the information that we have. All right. The source claims that Disney has hired a young actress to play Snow White as a child. The idea is to cut time out of Zegler's performance, show Snow White as a cute little kid, and soften the character with flashbacks and or major origin story portion at the beginning of the film. Of course, edits have not begun for these scenes as we believe they're not shot yet, so things could change. That said, if they do go forward with significant cutaways to Snow White as a child, this is a deviation from the original, and wouldn't you know it, after receiving this information last week, it turns out there are sites reporting that Disney has indeed hired a young actress to take the role. And that would mean that they're actively inserting a new childhood portion of the movie that wasn't originally planned. There was an article I did find about this. Unfortunately, that article has since been taken down. The link to it is dead. There's not a way to get back to it, but the information here is what's highlighted in gray. That's what came from that article. They were able to kind of use way back and get that information and add it to the list, but I don't have a link to it. Inside the Magic is reporting that Emilia Fauscher will play a young version of Rachel Zegler's Snow White. They picked up their info from Diz Insider, but unfortunately the original report is not working at this time of publication, which again, I was able to verify. Disney has reportedly cast Emilia Fauscher as the young version of Snow White in its upcoming live-action remake of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs from 1937, per Chloe James. So that's the information that we have, and it's not hard to understand because when they really started talking about this, some people are like, okay, well, this has got to be like new. They have to still be searching for somebody to take that role. I don't think this is as new of information as I think a lot of folks are reporting. Here's why, because there's this article. This is actually from Diz Insider, same other website that has the other article that we couldn't find anymore. This says casting search underway for young Snow White in upcoming live action remake. But if you'll notice the date that I highlighted here, the date is January 7th, 2022. That's a pretty significant difference when it comes down to it. I mean, that's a pretty significant thing to kind of make notice of. So I have a feeling, if I had to kind of take a wild guess, because January 7th, 2022 was really before all of the Rachel Zegler controversy started to blow up. That really didn't come around until about June, July of 2023. That's when all that started. So, yeah. This definitely seems to have preceded the controversy surrounding Rachel Zegler. And it looks like they had originally planned that as a subplot for the movie. But if any of this information from this article here, from That Park Place, has any validity, it does sound like what they would probably be doing is that with the reshoots now, is that they would be increasing that screen time for Amelia Faucher and creating a much more significant role for her character as young Snow White in order to, as they said, soften the blow that Rachel Zegler has already done to this movie. Because they've already realized that actually bringing Rachel back to the set to redo a whole bunch of like their scenes is just, it's cost prohibitive, and they're just not going to be able to really accurately do it. So they're just having to take a lot of the footage they already have of her, and they're just trying to have to kind of, hack it together to make it work. That is a terrible situation to be in. I mean, it's just this movie, every single thing that can go wrong has gone wrong, and it just keeps going even further wrong. Yeah. So it's led to a lot of questions about what is the projected like budget for this. As far as we know right now, the projected budget for this movie is $209 million. But it was $209 million in 2023 before the controversy came out. They haven't updated this. And to be completely honest, considering the fact that they've already had to go through a ton of PR work to try and reverse some of the damage, that's going to come out of the advertising budget. On top of that, you have to consider all these reshoots that they're doing. Apparently, they're having to reshoot a significant portion of the movie. It would not surprise me if, considering that, and then now they're having to add VFX to CGI in all of these dwarves, if they wouldn't be also now having to significantly increase the production budget upwards of $300 million or more. That's a conservative estimate to account for all of the reshoots, the CG, VFX, any of the additional other things like that they have to do. And then that's going to also put up the the marketing and advertising budget on top of that. This movie's going to be a disaster because it's going to require an inordinately huge amount of a huge amount of money to break even. And I just don't have any faith that that's going to be able to pull through, especially right now in 2024. 2025 is still very much an unknown entity right now. But considering the fact that we're still going to be feeling the effects of the SAG strikes all the way up until probably middle of next year, it's going to be interesting to see how they dig themselves out of this. Anyway, guys, definitely let me know what you're thinking in the comment section down below. Definitely go ahead and hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you on the next video. Peace.